Alright, so let's talk about the Planet Eclipse Geo 3. I love the, reading like a lot of the comments and stuff in the forums, stuff like that, about Planet Eclipse at World Cup. They didn't come out with anything new. There's nothing new that they released at World Cup. Yes, it is. The Geo 3, okay? These things are still, they didn't necessarily release it at World Cup, but these things are still extremely hard to get, okay? A lot of people right now are still trying to get their hands on the Geo 3. So it'd be really silly for Planet Eclipse to come out with another product when they can't even keep this one on the shelf. Right now it's December. I'm not sure exactly how long the back order was, but I know I was on the list to get mine for like 3 months. So, I mean, the one they gave me for Canadian Carnage was just a prototype, okay? That same gun went to 15 other people, for them to write articles on and take pictures of and stuff like that. I mean, that gun was basically, on a media tour. So I got it, went to Canada, I shipped it back to Planet Eclipse, it went somewhere else, and it went somewhere else, and I don't even know who has it right now. But that was pretty much like a prototype gun. Had most of the parts of the Geo 3. The only thing it didn't have was the soft touch bolt. But let's go and get into the Geo 3. Now, the Geo 2 was one of my favorite spool valve guns. Okay, I loved my Geo 2.1. It was one of my favorite spool valve guns. Just shoots great. Now, it's not not as soft of a shooting gun as, let's say, maybe a DM that's tuned perfectly, or a Clone GT. It's going to feel a little bit softer. The gun's going to buck a little bit more than like a Clone GT and stuff like that. It doesn't quite have the weight of the DM line, so the DMs are going to feel a little softer in the hands. But I really like the Planet Eclipse, the Geo, since the Geo 2, 2.1, and the Geo 3. It's been one of my favorite spool valve guns. Trigger is amazing on it. It's simple. You can completely take it apart. It's a toolless disassembly. Toolless to take the bolt out. Bolts are very simple. The regulator's very simple. It feels great in the hands. Let's talk about the difference between the 2.1 and the Geo 3. Obviously, one of the biggest things they have now is they've got this new flow control valve here on the side, which you can adjust to make your gun shoot a little softer or shoot a little harder. Basically what it does is it adjusts the bolt speed. Okay, so by turning it up to its max constriction, it's going to slow the bolt speed a little bit down. By turning it all the way down, it's going to make the bolt move back and forth a little faster. Now, if you're why would that come in handy? Well, it could be for a couple things. One, if you're playing probably in the PSP, you're not really looking for your max rate of fire, so you're probably going to want something that's going to shoot a little bit softer in the PSP, especially considering you're ramping all the time. Most of the time you're going to be shooting with one hand as you're constantly dumping pod after pod after pod. So you're going to want something that's going to stay on target and it's going to shoot a little bit, you want your gun to feel a little bit softer. Also, that may come in handy for cold weather play, okay? If it gets, possibly if you play in an area that this doesn't happen in Florida, but, if you get into an area where, the paint might be really brittle, maybe you're getting into some really cold temperatures, obviously having a slower bolt speed, it's going to be a little bit more gentle on paint so the bolt's not slamming into the paint. That might help a little bit as well. I mean, obviously the blast where it goes from 0 to pretty close to 200 miles an hour and 3 inches, obviously that's going to be a lot more rough on it than just the bolt moving back and forth, but that may come in handy for that as well. But also, if you're playing a lot of semi-auto, okay, and you want, if you're semi-auto, you're trying to get your gun to shoot as fast as you can, you want to crank the bolt speed up as high as you can, so that way the bolt gets out of the way so the ball can drop back in so you can get another ball out of the barrel. So definitely a nice adjustment. Has still probably one of the nicest ASAs on the market, with the Pops ASA. That thing is just awesome. I mean, very, very simple. Obviously, the lower pressure that you use on the gun, the easier this is to snap back. I mean, if you're using 850 PSI output, it's going to be a little tougher to snap back than if you're using something with maybe like 550, 350 PSI output. And also on that note, I have used SLP tanks on Planet Eclipse guns. I haven't had any problems with it. Ninja SLP tanks worked great on my Planet Eclipse guns, so maybe I've just been lucky, but they work fine. The other thing that they did is if you look at an Ego 11 and you look at a Geo 2.1, you'll notice that the Geo 2.1 doesn't have the rubber that goes all the way up the back of the grip like an Ego 11 does. Now, that comes in handy when you're going to dive into a bunker, or you need that little bit of additional grip that is what that's for. It's great. Like you're running down the field and you go to dive into the bunker and you do that last little wrist twist so that you don't, take a core sample with the tip of your barrel. Having that little extra rubber there, between your thumb and your pointer finger really gives you a little bit of additional control. And also when you're shooting with one hand and you're loading pods in, you can grip the gun a little bit better with your thumb, press it up against your hand, and you've just got that little better contact point. And obviously the other thing that they give you is they came out with the soft tip bolt. Now, Planet Eclipse has been really working on this bolt for many, many years. Now, the first time I saw Planet attempting one of these soft tip bolts was when I looked into Jack Wood's gun, his SL91, many, many years ago, and saw them with it. And one of the cool things is if you look at it, it's got notches cut in it, so that way it doesn't create any sort of a vacuum or suction effect with the ball. If you look at this, you'll see that there's some notches cut out into it looks like 4 notches cut out into this new soft tip bolt. So, the rubber's a little bit soft. I mean, I wouldn't say that this is, the softest rubber I've ever felt, but it's definitely, somewhat soft. Might come in handy if once again, if you're shooting super brittle paint or you need, or if you're, shooting in really cold weather or something like that. So those are pretty much the three biggest differences between the Geo 2.1 and also the, and the Geo 3. And of course you're getting, slightly different milling. You look at the eye covers a little bit different. The front here underneath the barrel's milled out a little bit more. It feels nice for your finger. It almost feels like your finger just sticks in there perfectly. So that's pretty much the biggest difference. You got milling. You've got your flow constrictor here that, so you can adjust how fast your bolt is. You've got the new, basically the Eagle 11 spine right here on the back of the grip, and you've got the soft touch bolt. So that's pretty much it in terms of the upgrades from the Geo 2.1 up to the Geo 3. Pretty much everything else is exactly the same. And of course you've got this cutout here where what they did was they raised the grip frame up just a little bit more to try to get the back, the back of your grip right here more in line with the barrel. So you see this little jut cutout, that's basically where the solenoid is. I didn't feel that really got in the way when I was pulling the trigger. It looks kind of weird when you first see it, that little cutout there where they removed a little bit of extra material here, but I didn't feel like it got in the way with me when I was shooting at all. But that's pretty much the biggest difference. So we got 5 differences here. We got the milling for the solenoid, milling on the marker, rubber up the spine, soft tip bolt, and flow constrictor here, the thing that lets you adjust your bolt speed. So let's go ahead and go do an efficiency test really quick. We'll come back, take the gun apart, which will take 20 seconds, and then we'll finish up with the conclusion. All right, guys, we're about to do the efficiency test on the Geo 3. So what I'm going to show you here is the tank temperature, or tank pressure reading. Looks like we're sitting right at about 4,200 PSI. And it's a pretty cool day, so the tank's not that warm. It's probably sitting about 90 degrees. And then we're here with, what's your name?
Dakota.
What's your name?
Dakota.
Oh, Dakota. I'm here with Dakota, and he's going to help me do this. So I don't really like doing this. It's a lot of work. So let me go ahead and the barrels a little bit. All right, cool. We're going to do the chrono it really quick. Load up our first pod. A little hot. I don't know what it is about, we chrono the guns before we start videotaping, and then we go and get air and then come back and the guns shoot 15 FPS higher. So now we're sitting on the mid 290s. You kind of want to aim up in the upper right, that's about where you want to shoot. just a smidge over 9 pods. All right, so let's go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and weigh the gun real quick. So we'll go ahead and turn it on. Well, everybody that complains, pounds and ounces, PSI, you should have it as grams or something. No, if you got a calculator, you can figure it out. All right, 1 pound, 14.8 ounces. So just under 2 pounds for the gun. So now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take it apart. Very quick and easy to take it apart. Move the macro line. There we go. Now here's the thing with the Geo, okay? If you put it together finger tight, you can take it apart with your fingers, okay? If you use your tools to tighten everything and torque everything down, you're gonna need your tools to take it apart. I've never had any problems with my 2.1 screwing everything down finger tight and then unscrewing it. Things on these guns don't just rattle loose. There's O-rings that'll help you hold everything in place and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and take apart the reg. It's really simple. Out comes the reg piston and the spring. Okay, let's go ahead and remove the swivel. And there we go. So we've just pretty much completely taken this apart. I mean, you can take apart the adjustment screw if you really need to, but your velocity adjustment screw, it's not that hard. You just keep tightening until it pops out. But for the most part, that's going to be most of the maintenance you're going to do on it. Also, sometimes in here, you can take like a swab, run a swab through. These little Kingman 50 cal swabs actually work really nice for a lot of cleaning for guns. They do give you Planet Eclipse grease. That comes inside the box if you want to use it. Works great. So let's go ahead and tighten the regulator. Go ahead and take the bolt out. And just a couple pieces for the bolt. There we go. Something I did notice too is this tip here on the prop shaft. You can actually unscrew it. Now I don't remember if you were able to do that on the Geo 2.1, but could there possibly be in the future some different tips? Maybe there's some different bolts coming down the pipe. I'm not exactly sure, but you can actually unscrew the prop shaft. Now it's definitely not something you want to have come loose while you're out there playing, but I noticed that, and definitely could open up for some potential upgrade parts later on in the future with maybe some different bolts or some different prop shafts. I mean, you never know what the mad scientist Jack Wood is up to at Planet Eclipse. He won't tell me. So there you go. So that's pretty much it for the bolt. Now I'll tell you something that's really nice about having toolless disassembly. One of my teammates, Emilio, we were practicing getting ready for World Cup, and was it Emilio or was it Stevie? I can't remember. Might have been Stevie. Anyway, he got the first fill of the day, and sometimes if you're not careful, you go and fill. If you're the first, if your tank, you fill your tank up and you're the first fill of the day. Sometimes there's a lot of condensation in the lines, and it'll fill your gun with water. And that's what happened to his Geo 2.1. It wasn't shooting. The bolt was moving back and forth really slowly, and he just couldn't understand why it was working perfect the night before, and it wasn't working good now. So we were able to really quickly, what we did was we drained his tank. So we just took off the macro line, popped it on, let all of it drain out. We took apart the regulator really quick, which was full of condensation, full of dirty water, cleaned out the bolt really fast, dry fired the gun about 200-300 times after we filled the tank back up with air. Gun was ready to go. So, having toolless disassembly, I mean, I think we finished that up in probably 5 minutes, and we didn't have to reach for tools or anything like that. It definitely comes in handy. So let's go ahead and set the camera back up, and we'll finish this up. Let's wrap up the conclusion on the Geo 3. Once again, another amazing marker by Planet Eclipse. If you like the 2.1, is it worth it going up to the Geo 3? Maybe. You've got quite a few upgrades and quite a few new cool things in the Geo3 that you don't have in the Geo 2.1. You're going to make that much of a difference if you already have a Geo 2.1 and it's shooting perfectly? Probably not. If you've been maybe looking to upgrade to your first, high-end spool valve gun, that's a great place to start. Very, very simple. Once you set the velocity, it doesn't move. Feels great in the hands. It's simple. Got an amazing trigger on this. I'll tell you how I set my triggers up for my Geo 2.1 and my Geo 3. What I did was I took the grip frame off, okay, and I removed the trigger, the whole trigger cartridge, everything came out. The first thing I did was I removed the screw up here at the top that goes for the magnet. Okay, it's the forwardmost screw. So I unscrewed that and just put it in the tool bag, or put it in the parts bag. Then what I did was I backed out the screw slightly that for the spring tension. So I increased my spring tension just a little bit on my trigger, so that way it would kick back just a little bit more. And once I did that, 15, 16, 17, 18 balls per second semi-auto, no problem at all. No problem at all. So, a lot of people, how do you say, I saw your MPPL video, I saw, your Geo 2.1 was ripping, what did you do? That was pretty much it. Remove the screw, increase the spring tension just a little bit, and set my activation point at about 80% of my trigger pull. So, did that, and the gun was a machine gun. So, no bounce, and it shot great. But, I think these things right now are retailing in the mid-1300s. Yeah, definitely worth that. Milling is amazing. Anodizing is amazing. Perfect fit and finish from front to back. Just an amazing marker. Feels great in the hand. I definitely like the new the new rubber contact points that go all the way up the spine of the grip frame. Smoking gun color manual, huge parts kit, comes with the lube, tools, barrel sock. Led's actually is really proud of his barrel socks. He just put up a video not too long ago showing him shooting the hell out of barrel socks, showing how durable they are. Amazing markers. I personally am a huge fan of I love the Geo 2.1. I love the Geo 3 even more. If you've been considering buying it, go buy it. You'll really like the gun. Thanks for tuning in.